guys, I'm going to show you super quick how I like to draw and color up my text sketches. So right now I've just dropped in my croquis, kind of like a text sketch template. Super nice because you can see the arm layout here. You can kind of see like bust point, waistline, hip, crotch depth, knee, everything like that. So let's say that we want to start with the top. So like I said, I've dropped this in. You can see over here my layer. I'm going to lock this down, give myself a new layer, just call it text sketch. So I'm doing Command plus just to zoom in here. I'm going to hit P, that gives me my pen tool. I'm going to swap these colors because I want a line, not a fill. And I'm just going to give myself, I usually like to go bright, so like red's a good color. And I like to start with the center of my garment. There's so many different styles on drawing your text sketch. I like just to keep mine symmetrical because it's like best for timing. But if you want to show an alternate sleeve view on one side and a straight sleeve on the other, just know that that is a simple option and that you don't have to keep it symmetrical, but I always like to start with my center line. So I've got this here. Again, I'm doing Command plus to zoom in, hitting my P so that I have my pen tool. I'm going to start with my neck. I always like to work my way top to bottom, so in center to outward. So I'm starting here. I'm going to drag it to my shoulder point, use my handle here to shape along the neckline. I want to make sure I'm square here, so I do pay attention to what I'm up to. You can see here, like, if I don't get out of my pen tool, it's going to keep this curve. So I'm going to hit Command to deselect where I am, but I do want to come back and connect to that. So let's say I want to come over to here, draw out my shoulder line. Again, I'm doing Command deselect to get off that pen command, but you can see that it easily pops back into that pen without me having to visit my toolbar again. So now I'm going to do shoulder to armhole. I'm going to keep this sketch pretty simple. Armhole to side body. Maybe I want like a tunic length out of this, and then I'm going to go over to center front. You can go past it a bit if you want to, or cut it off short, because like I said, you definitely want this to stay square. And so if you cut yourself short, once you reflect it, you can easily connect these lines and you know that it's going to be straight. Okay, I'm going to give myself an arm really quick, so let's do a sleeve here. Maybe we just want like a little cap sleeve. Yikes. Okay. I'm going to do my hollow arrow, so I've hit A here just so that I have the hollow arrow, and then I can easily kind of adjust where I want this to land. Maybe for a cap sleeve, we don't want it to go all the way to the side seam. I don't know. And then back neck, they kind of have this like dashed line here. You can either follow that or ignore it. I'm going to do my pen tool again. I'm going to go ahead and draft my back neck so that it does dip down slightly from my high point of shoulder, which is here. And you can see this is starting to like come up a smidge, which means it will valley when I go to reflect that. So I'm just going to control that now. Okay. Or shoot, should I make this more complicated and add a collar? Maybe just to get my point across. Okay, I'm just gonna take that out for a sec. Okay, let's say that we want some sort of collar. I'm gonna use my end tool, which is my pencil. You have a little more freedom to draw than with the pen, which is point to point. So I'm just gonna come in here. Remember, collars are up on the neck. It's not the cutest collar, but it should do for my demo. And then I like all my lines to connect because it allows me for a super easy fill. They don't have to be truly connected, though you can join them, but just for the appearance to be connected. And then for this collar, like we will be hiding this neckline here. So it will exist, it's just being folded over. So I'm actually gonna use my hollow arrow, so that's my A key, to come in here. I'm gonna hit C, which is my scissors, so cut. I'm actually gonna cut this line from within the collar, hit my A key again, and just delete. And then super sloppy, you guys, so don't hate on me. I'm gonna go ahead and draw that back neck in here. I'm gonna cut this again just because I want to be able to reflect that with a square back neck. Okay, now for the good stuff. I'm actually gonna hide my croquis layer here. Should have given this a placket, but it'll be fine. Okay, so now I'm going to, oops, maybe I'll slow down so I can explain myself. I'm going to do Control, Transform, Reflect. So I'm on a laptop, but perhaps that would be like a right click. And I'm going to reflect this on the vertical line. I'm just going to hit Copy, because I don't want to hit OK because that will reflect it only. We do want a copy there. Okay, and I know there's a way to reflect on the line. I always struggle with it, and to be honest, I don't find it too time consuming to have to like go in and drag that. All right, now like I said, I want to close these lines up. You can kind of see like when it highlights, you get this like little box here. So once that box is highlighted, I know that those lines will join. Let's see, I'm gonna put a collar stand here. And then let's go ahead and join our bottom opening line. And then I'm going to use my end tool really quick just because I want to show you guys cool ways to color up. So I'm going to give this girl a yoke all the way across. And then, I don't know, maybe we'll give her a squiggle. Okay. So there's my text sketch, super simple. And then I can highlight everything. Swap this out to black. I like to use my color palette over here because it's a straight up 000 black, and I don't know, I appreciate my colors. Okay, so next thing, and I know I've talked about text sketches and floats, and floats are typically a little more sketch-like and not so like rigid. This is like just a 1 point round pen here. But I actually like to use my oval pen just to give it like something that looks a little more non-traditional. And you guys can find that in Window, Brush Libraries, and it's in your artistic brushes and then your calligraphy pens. So here you've got a lot of different options, but like I said, I like my 1 point oval, which is hiding in here somewhere. So I just created my own brush library here, and I've carried it over because these are my favorite pens. Okay, and I won't go into too much detail with stitching, but obviously like I've made myself kind of like a stitch palette so that I can have stitching that exists. Like if I wanted some sort of top stitching along my collar, super easy to add. And you can go on and on and on. But okay, I'm gonna make my demo about really coloring up. I'm gonna get rid of this because I just don't need it. And then I'm gonna go into my actual layer for this text sketch. So I personally like to make a whole layer or group for my stitching. You can do this a couple ways. You can either create new layers within, or you can create groups, but I like to create them in layers because then I don't have to worry about using my hollow arrow to grab stuff and other things getting in my way. So I'm going to hide my stitching, and then this is my outline. Everything here is an outline, so I'm just going to call it as it is. I'm highlighting all of this, and I'm going to do a Command CF, which is a copy to the front, So you can see here I've duplicated everything that I already have, and I am going to do a Command G to group that. And once that is grouped, you can like hide this for a moment, and then you can have what does live within here and highlight only just a portion of it, because we do want to take this and expand these lines into what is a shape. So I'm going to do Object, Expand Appearance, and you can see how it's already now taken those lines into a shape rather than a line itself. Sometimes I don't trust it, so after I've done Expand Appearance, I'll do Object Expand just to be sure it's working for me. And then simply I'm going to draw a box. And like I said with my lines, I always kind of start with red. For my fills, I make it some crazy color just so I can see it. So we've got this rectangle in front of our sketch right now. I'm going to slide this behind. So I'm just grabbing that layer to move it. And then you can highlight everything minus your locked layer. And then within Pathfinder down here, and if you don't have that open, you can just go to Windows, find your Pathfinder. Okay, so I've got all that highlighted, my green box plus my text sketch that has been expanded into a shape, and I'm simply going to hit merge. And then I'm going to use my hollow arrow, so I've hit the A key, and then you should be able to delete the background. I'm going to delete my compound path. And this still lives here, so like your text sketch still lives here, my stitching still lives here. But now I can go in and say, you know what, I really, really want an orange yolk. And you know what, that kind of looks like a frog, so let's give her a yellow belly. Maybe you want the collar stand to match the yellow. And perhaps we want our collar itself to match the yolk. So super cool. You can group these within by color. You can also do, let's say I highlight my yellow here. You can do select, same, fill color, and it will grab everything at once here. And you can do Command G to group that. And same for this like rusty orange. I'm going to do select, same, fill color, and just hit Command G, and then I've got all of that grouped. So then simply I'm going to name this my fill, keep that my outline, and like I said, you can make these layers, groups, whatever, but just for today's demo I just want to show you guys super quick. But then you can go easily by however you're breaking this down in your BOM or in your design, and just swap out colors for location. Okay, I guess, should I be a super freak? Okay, let's just say, oops, let me unlock those. You want to build a color board. So I'm actually doing Shift Option to drag this. And then if you do Command D, you can just simply recreate again and again. And the spacing's perfect. And then you can go in, like I said, with your groups, and very quickly swap out colors and build your line. So I hope that helps. This is my favorite way to fill a garment because it is actual to all of these lines here. There are so many different ways to fill a garment. Like if I drew a T super quick, don't judge me for this one, but okay, so if I had a T like this, I could definitely fill it in over here on my palette and update my outline to black. And yeah, you have a filled garment. I just don't think it's as clean or as easy to grab as it is like if you fill it in with Pathfinder. And you can always, like, let's say I've got this and it doesn't have a color in it. The way I was taught and the way a lot of my peers were taught were to then go in with my pen tool and like start forming a shape that like follows the lines that outline your garment. My only problem with this is it's like slow, tedious, because if you're trying to match the actual like outline here, and you don't want it to like show beyond or shy of the line. It's just a pain in the butt to go in here and have to like kind of adjust all these handles. And I don't know, I'm gonna hit a plus sign here just so I can add another point and drag it out. And anyway, not my favorite. Did this for the longest time. I've seen this a lot where people like to block out different pieces. But to me, this is so quick and simple. So I hope the tutorial helps you, and happy sketching, guys.